school. IQRA not only provides support to teachers, but to schools.
Okay, so we have not yet finished the ayah. Now we're getting to the scariest part of the ayah, which is one of the scariest parts of the entire Quran. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ. Do you believe in part of the book, and do you reject part of the book? Okay. So just taking that statement on its own, what is it that Allah seems to be asking when He's saying, do you believe in part and reject it in part? Yeah. This is exactly it. Are you, when you are approaching your deen, are you taking the whole deen, or are you picking and choosing? Are you picking and choosing whenever it's just convenient for you? Okay. This is, that's part of the point here. That people are following what their whims are. Yeah. Sure.
Was it the previous ayah where the conversation with Bani Israel was over?
I'm sorry?
Is this for the believers occurring?
So here, this specific ayah, it seems as though the conversation, well, not the conversation, but the address has shifted back to Bani Israel, right? It says here in ayah 83, we made a pact with Bani Israel, and then you see the quote up there? Okay. Then from there, it shifts to you. Right? So consider this all to be one big quote that's taking place. Ayah 83, 84, 85, and then 86. Okay. But this is, again, one of the deep, very difficult questions we have to ask ourselves about our approach to the deen. Okay. Are you taking the deen in terms of picking and choosing? Are you taking the whole deen? Okay. This is, again, one of those very, very serious questions that are bitter. Okay. Or the parts of the deen that we are not fulfilling, asking the same question in a different way, the parts of our deen that we are not fulfilling, what is the real reason? Okay. I mean, there's the easier questions. Okay, so for example, we have the laws of the Quran, like the big punishment laws, cutting off the hand, eye for an eye, those things. So we're not fulfilling them because that's not the environment that we're in. Okay, but what about everything else? So think back, how many commands have we had so far? We've had 3. Ayah 21, Ayah 22, Ayah 25. The next command is going to appear essentially on the next page. We might get to it next week, or maybe the week after that, inshallah. Okay, command number 4. So, the first question is, okay, are you picking and choosing, or are you taking the whole deen, including the easy, happy things, as well as the difficult things? And then if not, if you're picking and choosing, then the question is why? But the more important question is that, okay, if I'm not fulfilling the whole deen, then how do I do it? Okay. Because I can sit and decide, yeah, effectively I'm just picking and choosing, there I'm done. That doesn't give me any benefit. Okay. So the approach we've been taking throughout all 3 of these courses, this is part 3 now, is that, okay, the way Al-Baqarah is laid out is that it's building you up piece by piece by piece by piece. So the only instructions so far are, 1, be the abd of your Rabb, okay, surrender to your Rabb. So that's a mindset that whatever Allah wants me to do, I will try to do. The second command was, anyone? Epic fail. Okay, so do not knowingly make rivals to Allah, right? Okay. Again, this is, for our purposes so far, a state of mind. Okay. The third command, give good news to those who believe and do right. So, wish good news to each other, and make that your really hardcore practice. These days, your day now, tomorrow, in the future, make it your hardcore practice to wish good news to each other. Okay. Because what is part of the point that we're making here? That the way Al-Baqarah is laid out is that it's building you up for the bigger things, and the bigger things. We have still not received the command to do salah. Okay. Keep that in mind, how central salah is for us. We have still not received even that command yet. Okay. That will come. So what am I saying here? The first question is, the things that I'm not fulfilling, what is the real reason? Is it laziness? Is it fear? And sometimes it's those are the basic answers. Okay. But the more important question is, how do I fulfill them? And so the approach we're taking is we're taking the Quran passage by passage and trying to embody them. And right now, most of what we've received are passages to think about things. So think about this question. But here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this passage even more frightening. Okay? What is the reward of people who do this? Meaning who essentially pick and choose, who believe in part of the revelation, reject part of the revelation, except suffering in this world and suffering in the next world. Okay. On the day of judgment, they will have the most painful doom. Okay, look at this in Arabic. Ashaddil azab. How would you translate Ashaddil azab?
Most painful.
Yeah, most painful. Okay. Okay. For Allah is not aware of what you do. Now, again, the conversation here is not to us. The conversation is to Bani Israel. For us, what do we have here? We have something to seriously think about. Okay. That, again, those things that I'm not fulfilling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's instructions, of this deen, why not? And then the deeper question, how can I get myself to fulfill them? How can I get myself to try to fulfill them? Okay. That's our essential goal, to try. Right? You have to show up, and you're not the one who throws the arrow. Allah throws the arrow. Okay. Because the other side of it is that if I'm effectively picking and choosing, then I am, according to this ayah, why would I not expect suffering in this dunya as well as suffering, serious suffering in the akhirah? It's pretty scary, right? Thus far, all of our text has been very, very light, very, very easy to swallow, but now it's getting very serious. Yes, ma'am? Yeah.
We're saying suffering.
Disgrace is probably a better word, actually. Yeah. I use suffering because that's an easy word to say over and over again. Right. Maybe that's all the Buddhist studying that I've been doing. But, disgrace is probably a better word. Yeah. Khizyun fil hayat dunya. How would you translate khizyun? Yeah, I mean, it is more disgrace. Right. And this is what commentators say. This is why the Muslim community is in the condition that it's in. Whether or not that's a fair assessment, that's a different conversation. But some argue that effectively it's because we're picking and choosing in terms of our deen. Okay. But this is the question, right? We started out with the question of character, okay? But now we're taking it to how much am I not fulfilling and why? Okay. And should I expect anything else than disgrace?
Well, what would be the criteria for a religious person? Well, how would he? Is he hardworking? Is he and revolutionize his life?
Okay.
Does he wake up?
Okay. So those are a few different questions. What would be the criteria for a religious person?
Right.
From our perspective, the short answer would be how much am I essentially listening and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. The second point about internal revolution, for me to listen to Him more would often require an internal revolution. Right? Meaning, so what I'm saying is that it's more like the core of our discussion so far was having good character. Right? And we were saying that that's central to our deen. Now we're expanding it to everything, huququllah and huququl ibad, right? That, how do I test myself? I look through the text and how much of the text am I fulfilling? Yeah, basically that's
so
what
you're not turning your back to the society.
We're definitely not saying that, right? That's not our tradition. Our tradition is that you don't turn back to your back on the society. That the difference between a prophet and what we call an ascetic in other traditions, someone who leaves everything, is that the prophet connects to Allah and goes right back into society. That's our tradition.
So you're participating in the whole
Absolutely.
aspect. The whole
Yeah, we're not talking about living in a cave. We're talking about being in society. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So then what do you do when people, going back to the previous ayah, you said there's just these disputes and you're forced to take a side?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to use it. So what do you do at that point when you don't want to take a side? You have to withdraw.
Well,
if you're there, you're going to be pulled into one way or the other.
This is a very, very important question. Like when you see a dispute, well, there's three sides, right? There's this side, that side, and the people in the middle who are trying to establish peace. That's the side we try to take, right? We try to bring the people together.
But there is an ayah which says that if somebody is pressing, then you take the side of, isn't there an ayah?
Well, I mean, if there's oppression taking place, then you try to stop the oppression. I mean, in that case, you might have to take sides. Yeah, sure.
So it's
Yeah,
not
sure.
like always you
Sure. I'm saying,
Gujarat also says bring them together.
yeah.
But if one continues,
Then that's it. Yeah. Yeah. There will be times where you do have to side against the wrong behavior of people, but a lot of times the behavior is wrong on both sides, right? And the behavior is often just it's bad manners or wrong etiquette. But even in those cases, if one side seems to be correct, your job might be to be in the middle to bring the people together. Right? See what I'm saying? That either, if I see wholeheartedly this side is correct, that side is wrong. Okay? But if I join this side, I'm actually contributing to the division. Right?
What if this side is wrong?
Take
the side of the...
No, but what I'm saying is that if I'm saying with the side that is right, am I also contributing to the division? Right?
Well,
That's it.
But again, if that side is, that in the long run it will cause more harm to the community,
sure.
Whatever, at least in your mind, whatever that is, then how do you deal with those questions?
Okay, so again, the point being that in some cases I choose a side. Okay. In other cases, I'm in the middle trying to bring the people together, right? So there's usually three sides always. So there might be a right side and a wrong side, but the rightest side might be the group in the middle that's establishing peace, right?
I think what he's trying to say is sometimes you have to take the middle road because if you don't, you'll create a fitna in the community that's much worse than the issue that's being discussed.
Mm-hmm.
But the first commandment, there are two groups who are fighting. The first one is to try to make peace. That's by default.
Yeah.
The other one is, that's the last.
So the first step is to make peace. Yeah, and then if you have to choose a side, sometimes you have to. That's the reality. Sometimes you do have to choose a side.
But I'm defines which side you should take.
That's
So
true.
we don't make a choice. It's already made for us.
I'm saying, generally speaking, well, that's 100% agreement. But yes, that the Quran has told us who to take sides with, but sometimes it's harder to decide which of the two is more reflecting the Quran. But most of the conflicts that we have in our community are often conflicts of bad manners, right? I mean, it's usually the problem, right? Okay, now taking this, making it even more frightening. Okay. So, what is it saying about those people who are picking and choosing, who are believing in part, rejecting part? Okay. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا بِالْآخِرَةِ. These are the people who are buying this life at the cost of the hereafter. Okay. So that's the basic question, just like the question I asked last week. If you look at your day, look at how you spent your time in your day, and if that is a normal day, where are you going to be in 10 years? Where are you going to be in 20 years? The simple, blunt question that each and every one of us has to honestly ask ourselves. Okay. That's the difficult question that we all have to face, because we're all going to be facing the day of judgment anyway. It's just the reality. So here, the question is essentially, are you, in terms of how you're spending your time, what are you buying, what are you selling? Are you buying this life at the cost of the next life? Are you buying the next life at the cost of this life? You don't have to give up this life for success in the next life. Keep that point in mind. But some people are selling off the next life for this life. Okay? Meaning, our tradition is one that says to enjoy the beauties of this world. You don't have to give up the beauties of this world for the akhirah. But there are some people who are doing that.
So don't lose your soul in the bargain.
Don't lose your soul. Yeah. Okay. Many of our discussions over the course of the next few weeks are going to be just as serious, because what is the class about? The consequences of belief and rejection. I just want to touch on the very end of Ayah 87, and then today, inshallah, we'll stop here. Okay, and we'll revisit this next time. Okay. Is it ever so that whenever a messenger comes to you with what you yourselves do not desire, you grow arrogant, some you disbelieve, and some you slay? Okay, to put this in simpler language, whenever you are faced, or is it true that whenever you are faced with something you don't want to face, something you know is good for you, but you don't want it? These are three levels of responses that people often give. The first level of response that people give is to become arrogant. Okay. We discussed this when we were talking about the devil, that the devil sought arrogance, hid behind arrogance as a shield. Okay. That sometimes when I'm facing something that I know is good for me, but I don't want to face it, sometimes I will respond by acting arrogant. This is stupid, I don't need this. Okay. And if that is not enough, then I will accuse the person of being a liar. Okay, no, this is all fraud. Okay? And if that is not enough, then I might resort to violence. This is the 13 years of the Prophet, peace be upon him, in Makkah. Right? How did they respond to him first? With this message, they all understood it with arrogance. When that wasn't enough, then they started resorting to character assassination. And then when that wasn't enough to protect them, then they resorted to violence, first against his followers and then against him. Peace be upon him, may Allah be pleased with them. So keep this point in mind, that we're having these discussions, and I'm asking each of you to ask these serious questions to yourself about the way you are living your life. I mean, obviously none of us is passing judgment on anyone else, but this is us to each pass judgment on our own selves. And this is the response that people commonly give, that, all right, if I don't want to face it, I act arrogant. Okay. I mean, in this room, we don't have the problems of the other ones of, okay, they're a bunch of liars, or to resort to violence. But the key point here is that this is what people resort to if they don't like something. They don't want to change. Okay. We're going to stop here. And so the key questions that I raised, one, just to recap, the key take-home points relates, the first big part of the discussion relates to character, right? How central character is in terms of interacting with each other, how central character is in terms of our deen. That character is so important. Not just acts of worship, but good character. And then from there, the question, what was my second question? I forgot. Okay, so the second question was essentially that when you are in a time of struggle, can you maintain your character? I mean, this is the fun part of Ramadan, about a week and a half in Ramadan, because that's when all the worst fights begin, right? Okay, shaitan is locked up, and the shaitans inside people come out, and then you see all the worst possible behavior, right? Can you keep your character when there is struggle? And third, how far do you take it? And the example we gave was, all right, if I'm buying meat from this place, and they're saying it's halal, do I go investigate every single thing? For most of us, we have a line of practicality, and if it meets that, then we don't go any further. But this is something to think about. How many people are being oppressed by the clothing that I wear, right? Or the life cycle that I have, right? Sorry?
Today, one of the seventh grade textbook, they have the line of the girls wearing hijab, and they are, this is this hijab, and this is not right hijab. This is completely not right. This is not right at all, and the poor,
Okay, yeah, so. Yeah, haram hijab. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, as you are saying, why to go that far?
Yeah, these are the questions to think about. And then by extension, when I am looking at my practices, what am I not fulfilling, what I am fulfilling, and the things that I'm not fulfilling, why? The brutal question that each and every one of us has to ask ourselves. Okay? That you can't wait until you're 100 years old, or until 60 or 40 or 20. This is something that you have to keep asking yourself. And then our goal overall with these courses is to say that, yeah, there are things we're not fulfilling, but the way we are fulfilling them is to take the Quran passage by passage until we get to the next command, and then we will try to fulfill the next command. Okay, any last question? Now, what was your question again? Sorry.
Withholding knowledge versus wisdom.
Okay, very good question. So Shiraz's question is related to Ayah 76 and 77, that one of the wrong things people do with revelation is that they withhold knowledge that would be used against them. And I made a point that there's a difference between withholding knowledge and withholding wisdom. So if I'm speaking to an audience, it doesn't mean I give them 100% of the information. Okay? I still have to speak to them out of wisdom in terms of what will benefit them. Okay? Right? But if there's information I have to give, okay, that I want to hold back because it's going to make me look bad, I have to give that knowledge. Okay? So, I mean, the easiest case is imagine you're in court. Okay, you have to give the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Okay, in that situation, you have to say everything. Okay, if it's going to get you in trouble, if it's going to get anyone in trouble. But if you're teaching, the idea here is what we call expedient means, that you have to give people what will benefit them in the lesson. Okay? So, for example, even here, I haven't given you the story of the history of Bani Israel. What are the historical examples? Because for our purpose, that's not relevant. Okay, so that's not so much me withholding knowledge as much as me focusing on what is the best way to give you the lesson. So there the focus is on wisdom rather than just giving everything. Okay.
Well, I have a question. Who decides what will benefit me?
Who decides what will benefit you?
Who decided what was good for the women?
Okay.
And thinking that this will benefit us, you know?
Okay, so you can ask me that question tomorrow. Okay. Well, this is... Yeah. So the old style was that everyone had a close relationship with the teacher, right? And the contemporary style is that everything, Islam has become generalized. So before, your sacred relationships would be your relationship with your teacher, your relationship with your parents, your siblings, so forth, but your relationship with your teacher was a sacred relationship, and that person would decide, right? But one of the difficulties, why we have some problems now in our culture, is that we have to generalize Islam for everyone because that teacher-student relationship is gone. So now it's a classroom relationship. So I have some students with whom I have a very, very close relationship. We've been studying together for years, and there it's a much different relationship than it is in this type of setting where I'm speaking more in a general language. And so, yeah. So it would be who decides for you. If you have that close teacher, maybe uncle. Okay, no. No, so then, yeah.
I like his fatwas, they're very good.
Oh, good, alhamdulillah. Yeah, absolutely. Very good fatwas, yeah. But that's the point, that the ulama wind up deciding what's good for us because that's they're making their answers according to the situation, but they might not have sufficient training.
When you have talked about ulama, if you have just at Blvd, you're going to stay here and teach us with these kind of questions.
Yeah.
It will be a different story. You're Western educated and you have understanding of things. So
so
when you talk about ulama, forget it. The ulama from the old countries, you cannot talk to them. Immediately the fatwa is there, kill them.
Yeah, that is too often a problem. But the point I'm making,
100%.
but I'm saying, but that is also a response to this change in relationship between the close relationship between the teacher and the student. Meaning that was our old tradition.
That's on Devon Ave. If you talk to
Sure. We're not disagreeing. I think you two will get along really well here, right? Yeah. But that's agreed upon in the sense that there is not a culture of asking questions anymore in the community. That, inshallah, is coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, taking some and rejecting some parts of the revelation. Give us your opinion about an ayah that you were summarizing last week.
Okay.
From the revision of the earlier course.
Okay.
And that was Surah Baqarah, ayah number 62.
Okay.
Wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Jews, Christians, all those deeds, they have nothing to worry about. And what I find is an overwhelming majority of Muslims believe that, that ayah has been abrogated.
Okay.
That's one Mansur.
Okay.
And what do you think about that? Could that be referring to, taking some, denying some, or rejecting some?
Interesting point. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
The whole theory of Nasr Mansur abrogation.
Okay. So abrogation we will be speaking about in the course of this class. That's around ayah 103. So we will definitely be talking about abrogation, both in terms of Islamic law as well as in terms of the Quran. So that part we'll get to. But in terms of this ayah, where does everybody agree? Okay. Well, first let me state the two opinions. One opinion is this ayah, and there's a comparable ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Okay. That says, this middle line, whoever believes in Allah on the last day, they have no fear, they need have no fear, nor shall they agree, they'll have the reward. So some say this applies to everybody for all times. Others say this applies to everybody up to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Okay? But where do they both agree? They both agree that Allah is going to treat everybody with justice. Right? So that's the agreement part of them both. Okay? So if I am claiming that no non-Muslim can go to heaven, okay, then I better be doing a lot of da'wah. If I'm not doing da'wah, then either I'm very inhuman or I don't really believe it. Right? If I'm claiming that, it's possible for a non-Muslim to go to heaven, then the question is, then why should I remain Muslim? Right? And so I'm remaining Muslim, so implicitly I'm still saying that this way is better than the other ways, even if I don't openly state it. Okay? Make sense? Yeah. We will talk, inshallah, I think it's around ayah 103. Or maybe it's 106. Yeah. 106, we will be speaking directly about abrogation. So how does it play out in terms of law? How does it play out in terms of what Allah gives me in my life? Right? Abrogation is also an issue there. That when Allah takes something away, He doesn't take it away without giving me something better. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting point. Go ahead.
It talks about animals that are treated inhumane, strangled, or not allowed to.
So the argument that's being made is that even the animal that's been tortured, you can make the argument chronically they can't eat that either. Yeah. So now, stick to carrots. Yeah, sure. But actually, you can't eat those little baby carrots either because they're all like filled with chlorine and all kinds of other stuff. So, just eat your honey bunches of oats and you'll be good. Okay. Any other questions about anything at all, inshallah? Okay, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Okay, وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خيرا everyone for your time, and please have a safe ride home. And we'll pray Isha in about 10 minutes. Do you have any announcements? Or?
No.
Okay.